the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is: have you ever thought about mastering your mind so you can transform your game and your life? Well, our guest for today is the perfect guest to answer that question. Dr. Joe Parent is a renowned expert in performance psychology, blending modern Western psychology with ancient Eastern wisdom to coach athletes, artists, and business professionals. He has coached PGA Tour and LPGA champions, including Vijay Singh, Christy Kerr, both of whom reached number one in the world under his guidance. Very, very cool. Dr. Joe Parent is the author of the bestseller Zen Golf, Mastering the Mental Game, which has sold over 1 million copies worldwide. His work extends beyond sports, providing corporate seminars and executive coaching. With a PhD in social psychology and years of mindfulness practice, Doc Joe offers a unique approach to achieving peak performance. And today, I'm quite excited for him to share his insights, perspective, and wisdom. Doc Joe, how are you doing? Thank you for being on the show.
I'm great. Nice to talk with you, Joshua.
It's fantastic, Doc. I mean, I'm quite excited. Of course, I love all this, performance coaching, mindfulness, also that the way you incorporate all of that in there. But before we really get into it, Doc, where did it all begin? What inspired you to combine Western psychology with Eastern mindfulness practice? And of course, your world renowned golf coaching, so to speak. How did this unique approach shape your career in performance coaching? What is the story of Doc Joe Parrott?
I'll try to keep it brief.
Hmm.
Uh, I did have the opportunity when I was in college in the late 60s and early 70s. It was a time in the United States where there was a lot of interest in Eastern philosophy. So
Oh,
I connected with the Buddhist teachings, particularly through
right,
that. I had been already entered into the psychology program at Cornell University.
right.
So those two came together very naturally. Psychology combined with basically Western psychology. And when we talk about Buddhism, we're really talking about not so much a religion as a psychology of understanding the mind through that Eastern wisdom tradition.
Interesting.
Now, since I was a teenager, I loved to play golf,
Hmm.
and I had the opportunity when I was teaching at a Buddhist psychology residential program that a golf coach came, and I
Right,
said, "Let's go play hooky. We're going to go out on the golf course." He said, "Tell me what my mind is doing on the golf course." And I said, "We'll make
wow,
a trade. You tell me what my body's doing, in other words, swing instruction, and I'll tell
right.
you what your mind is doing." We started
Interesting.
working together, and that is how I developed my performance psychology for golf program that
Hmm.
became Zen Golf. And then I was
Wow.
able to apply it to a number of other things. This is a favorite, uh, a diet book that I
Yes.
wrote using the
The Zen
same
of losing weight.
performance
Very
psychology, the
cool.
Zen of losing weight. It's
Uh-huh.
called the best diet book ever because
Uh-huh.
that's what you find when you search on Google for the best diet book.
That's very cool, Doc Joe. I love it. I love the concept, and of course, Zen Golf has become a classic, a cult classic in the field. Of course, and it applies a lot of things, right? Like mindfulness into the golf and the way it is played, the way you perform in this sport, especially you knowing how it is in the highest level possible in this sport. Can you share some key principles from the book and perhaps a success story. I love stories in this show. That's literally the second name of the show, right? Any stories that stand out to you of how these principles have impacted one of your clients?
Well, I think the main theme
Mhm.
is richness rather than poverty mentality. That you
Mm,
have a tremendous amount of talent, ability,
interesting.
knowledge already. Everybody has a certain amount of that,
Right,
but it
right.
doesn't come through. It's like clouds blocking the sun. So we don't
Mm-hmm.
have to create a new sun in front of the clouds. We just have to part the clouds that are interfering. So my job is to help people like you
Mm-hmm.
and golfers, performers in the arts, and a lot of business executives. Very simple. Help you get out of your own way to
Mm-hmm.
get the most out of your abilities.
Wow.
That's the basic theme. Now, how
Wow.
do we do that? First,
Yes.
you need to know how you're getting in your own way. So
Yes,
that's
of
step
course.
one. And
Mm-hmm.
that's mindfulness and awareness of noticing your thought patterns, your speech patterns, how you behave, and saying, what habits do I have that are hindering me?
Mm-hmm.
And what habits do I have that I want to cultivate more that are helping me be more successful? So I created
Interesting.
something called the Ninja System,
Mm-hmm.
NINJA, and it
Mm-hmm.
stands for Necessary Intention and Non Judgmental Awareness. The
Wow, that's
first part,
beautiful.
necessary intention. You have to really, there's an old psychologist joke. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb has to want to change. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a joke in that, but it's
Mm-hmm.
serious. You have to want to change
Of
to be
course.
able to make a change because
Of course.
there's a threshold of inertia of habit that you have to get over
Mm-hmm.
to be
Mm-hmm.
someone new. Now,
Mm-hmm.
so necessary intention. The second part is non-judgmental awareness. And there's a problem with people who want to make a change beating themselves up for not being better already, for
Right.
something that they've been doing wrong, for a habit that has maybe been lifelong, that
Mm-hmm.
came out of childhood that they don't even realize where it came from, but they beat themselves up for making mistakes. And instead, we want to use non-judgmental awareness because if you beat yourself up for something that you don't like, you're kind of giving it extra attention. You're feeding it
Right.
rather than
Right.
starving. So by
Wow.
non-judgmental awareness, we just notice, oh, there it happened again. I'm just going to notice how many times, but I know I have the intention to do it less and less and less. And then you
Beautiful.
will move in a direction of refraining from what isn't going to help you and cultivating what is going to help you be fulfilled to fulfill your potential.
Doc Joe, can I just point out that literally that acronym that you just came out, Ninja, could you share that to us again? NJA is non-judgmental awareness, and NI is
Necessary intention and non-judgmental awareness.
non-judgmental awareness. Now,
NINJA. You
NJ,
have to have
I
the
love.
necessary
Mm-hmm.
intention
Mm-hmm.
of what you want to change, and then
Mm-hmm.
you apply non-judgmental awareness
Precisely.
to that intention, and you will grow in the direction of your intention.
I love that. I love that. And can I just point out that literally that acronym right there is a combination of Western and Eastern, right? Because it feels like the NJA part of the ninja is the Eastern mindfulness part of it. Like putting in the intention coming in, you're not judging it, you're just letting it be there and being aware of it, right? But the necessary intention is like being clear of what you want it to be. I love that. I love it because you have to know first, like you said, you have to know what it is that how you are getting in the way, and how do you get past that. And that is quite zen when you talk about it in that way where you know okay, none, I'm not going to judge this, but I am aware that these are my intentions. And
Exactly.
it's really quite cross disciplinary, right? So there's
And
a
I,
lot of
I call
insight.
it
Go ahead.
I call it recognition and undoing. First, you recognize
Oh,
the situation, and then you undo the habits that are getting in the way.
this is just very interesting. But could you talk to us a little bit about how this applies in golf? Like, why is it any principles like any like the swing and any performance related stuff? Why do I need to
Very,
be
very simple.
intentional?
There's three places
Please,
where we want to
please.
change our habits
Hmm.
in golf. The
Hmm.
first place is how you go into the shot, your pre-shot
Okay.
routine, how you go in with the expectations. Are
Hmm.
you focusing more on where you don't want to go
Okay.
as opposed to where you do want to go? And
Mm.
in working with professional athletes, especially the top level golfers, they have experience with all these golf courses. And the way what they said to me was, I know where all the bad places are. And I play better on a course that I'm not even familiar with because the caddy just says hit it here and I hit it there. So
Hmm.
it's training you to be aware of the dangers.
Hmm.
But once you've taken them into account, now just focus on what you do want to happen rather than what you don't want to happen. And that applies in golf and that applies in our lives too, and certainly
Hmm.
in business. So
Wow.
that's the starting point. Focus on what you where you do want to go, taking the other possibilities into account, but not making them so that you have a positive intention rather than you're going in trying to avoid something going wrong. The
Right.
second
Precisely.
part is, do you trust what you know how to do, or are you kind of looking over your own shoulder and telling yourself what to do while you're doing it?
Right.
And
Right.
and what I like to say for golfers is, if you're thinking about your swing, then you're thinking, you're not swinging. So think about it
I
in
love
your
that.
preparation, but then when it comes to time to playing the shot, have a key feel or two and an image of where you do want the ball to go and how it's going to get there, and then
Interesting.
turn control over to your body.
Interesting. Wow.
You
Wow.
let go of control to gain control. And the
That's
last part
beautiful.
is after the shot. That's when people
Mhm.
beat themselves up. So
Right.
instead, change that habit, because if you beat yourself up and you get angry over a shot, that negativity will carry into your future shots.
Yes. Yes.
So
Exactly.
instead, clear it. And I call it erase and replace. Know what you did, make the swing you wish you'd made, so that you never leave a spot with a bad swing. And then you have a positive intention again for your next shot. So you can do
Beautiful.
that in your life as well. If you're not happy with something, don't keep ruminating and going over and over and over. If you do, just count the number of times you're thinking about it and go, really? I thought about that same thing 11, that mistake I made 11 times,
Hmm.
and you'll have a sense of humor about it and let it go. But
Hmm.
you do need to say, what could I have done,
Hmm.
not what should I have done.
Right.
Should has a lot of negative connotations. Could has positive connotations.
Right.
What could I
Right.
have done to handle the situation better? So how do I plan for that next time?
Wow. It's very insightful because it's easy to see how we can apply that in real life, right? Like it's easy to bring that into real life because what could you can't dwell on your mistakes. You can't dwell on the bad swing that you just did because that's going to carry over into the rest of your life. And so
And
are all these
that's
other
why
principles. Hmm.
that's
That's
why I
why.
call it the PAR approach:
Oh,
preparation, action, response to results.
I
So
love
it's
that.
something that every golfer can remember because it's the word PAR.
Precisely.
Preparation. How do you go into the shot?
Hmm.
Action.
Action.
You trust it, or are you trying to avoid something? And response
Precisely.
to results. Can you learn from it and then let go?
Precisely. And with life is you
Same
how do you
thing.
prepare yourself? How do you prepare yourself to get into that, uh, mindfulness and, practice and whatnot? But are you taking action? What kind of actions are you taking? And how do you respond to the mistakes and the shots that you have taken in your life? And I think it applies very well.
and not just mistakes. Let's say you're going into a business meeting and you have a particular role
Ah.
as the main presenter or one of the presenters, as a part of a panel, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare
Mm-hmm.
and focus on what you want to communicate?
Right.
Then, when you're in the situation, how do you convey what you want to communicate, being in tune with the environment?
Right.
Read your audience, and then
Mm-hmm.
afterward reflect on it. What could I
Mm-hmm.
have done better? And also, what went well? Because you
Right.
want to not just learn from your mistakes, but reinforce your success.
I love that. I love that.
Reinforce your success, learn from your mistakes.
Reinforce your success, learn from your mistakes. I love that it's not just negative, right? It's not just always going to be, the negative, but it's also being aware of the positive, of the successes that you've made. I love that. And your insight truly is cross disciplinary, Doc Joe. You've worked with athletes, actors, business professionals, um, and again, it's we're discussing how easy it is to apply these Zen golf principles into real life. What are some common psychological challenges you see, regardless of this discipline, right? Regardless of these fields, like actors, athletes. How do you address them using your combined approach of psychology and mindfulness?
There's something that's common from beginners to the top professionals, from
Mm-hmm.
whatever field someone's in, that has to do with performing in a particular way.
Right.
And that's life as well. Every
Mm-hmm.
situation we enter into is a kind of performance when
Mm-hmm.
we're there with other people, even when we're doing something with ourselves, because we're our own audience as well.
Yes, of course, of
And the
course.
and the key there is, are you confident or are you worried about something going wrong? That's the richness mentality versus the poverty mentality. And the greatest source of interference in performance is worry about the outcomes. In fact, working with Christy Kerr, helping her get to number one in the world in the
Mm-hmm.
LP on the LPGA, she
Mm-hmm.
had a great acronym for that.
Right.
When I An acronym is taking the first letter of each word and making a new word out of it. So if
Yeah.
we take the letters of worry about results,
Worry
the
about
letters are W
war.
A R, which
Right.
spells war. When
Mm-hmm.
I worry about results,
Mm-hmm.
I'm at war with myself.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. That is very cool. And again, this you can apply this in any of those fields.
Everything about life.
Everything about life. Don't worry about it. Like, I think worry is quite wasteful, is it not? It's like you're trying to worry about your results, but really, you just have to be mindful. You just have to be, intentional. How What are other common approaches where you're able to apply? Again, I love the concept of Western psychology and Eastern mindfulness. Talk to us a little bit more about that combined approach, and what are the common practices that you always teach?
But one of the interesting things is language.
Hmm.
The language is very important because you
Yes.
not only say what you say, you also
Hmm.
hear what you're saying. And if you're
Mm.
talking in a negative way about yourself, you'll start to believe that.
Right.
If
Right.
you start talking in a positive way about yourself and it's not realistic, you won't you'll say, who am I kidding? I'm not going to kid myself. I know that's not true. So
Of course.
there's false confidence.
Right.
There's
Right.
conditional confidence, where you only feel confident based on recent success. And there's unconditional confidence, which means you believe in yourself whether things are going well or they're going poorly. And one of the language things that I talk about is the word care.
Hmm.
Because somebody says, well, I'm not supposed to worry, so I shouldn't care. No, care has two meanings. One is to take an interest in, and the other is to worry about. I want you to take an interest in success and work hard towards that,
Wonderful.
but not worry about what could go wrong. You need to
Uh,
be aware of what could go wrong
mhm.
because there are pitfalls and there are dangers. You don't just say, well, I'm just going to hit it right next to the water, but you have to take that into account and say, you know what? I have a dispersion pattern. I have an area that my ball lands in. I need to give myself room to play. Once you move away from the trouble enough,
Hmm.
then you can have a positive target and swing freely.
Wow.
So give yourself room to play and understand that everyone has an area that the ball lands in. Everyone
Hmm.
has an area of their performance. You know,
Hmm.
um, there are going to be times when you do make mistakes. There are going to be times when you, using a baseball metaphor, hit it out of the park, when you really
Yes,
hit
of
a home
course.
run.
Hmm.
Most of the time will be some combination of the two.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
again, build on your successes, reinforce them, congratulate yourself, and say, "This is what I want to do more of," and learn from your mistakes without beating yourself up.
Wow.
So
Learn.
that's the Western behavioral psychology
Hmm.
working on reinforcement, positive and
Yes.
negative reinforcement,
Yes.
and the Eastern wisdom of saying your nature is to be fully present and awake. The distractions are an overlay. They're not, confusion is not your nature.
Beautiful.
Wisdom is your nature.
Wow, I love that. I love that, Doc Joe. It's that's very very insightful because, you know, it takes apart what we struggle with the most, and that's really is, you know, worrying is stealing our joy and our potential, but there's also nothing. I like how you keep reinforcing that there's nothing wrong about being aware of what might go wrong, but it's the worrying part that is actually taking away from the quality of life. And you combine this so well and you explain it so well. When it comes to corporate coaching and life coaching, in your seminars and your executive coaching sessions, what are the most, how do you apply these same principles? Because right now we're applying golf and life, right? We're kind of
Mhm.
combining both things. I kind of want to move towards explaining this in the concept of teaching valuable lessons about mindfulness and peak performance in both business and everyday life this time, which is now like kind of what most of our audience
Yes.
and listeners are into.
So when you get into business,
Hmm.
whenever you're communicating with someone, that's a kind of performance.
Hmm.
Whenever
Hmm.
you're actually working on a project, you have a team that you're putting together.
Right.
You have a vision for what you want to accomplish. And again, if you spend all your time worrying about what could go wrong, then you never go forward. The saying I have is, "It's life is like a turtle. You don't get anywhere unless you stick your neck out." So
Wow.
you have to be
Beautiful.
aware of taking chances. At the same time, you have to make them reasonable and realistic, not unnecessary risks. So
Right.
you have to
Right.
say, okay, here are our different pathways that we could go down. You know, it's like a flow chart, and if this happens, then this is our plan B. If that happens, that's our plan B, so that we know we have backup, and then we can go forward. Again,
Right.
it's the same thing with any of my executive coaching. When I'm talking to somebody about their business, they say, "I'm paralyzed because I can't make a decision because I'm worried that it's going to be the wrong one." And so we
Yes.
work on, okay, let's work on, what are you afraid of? What does that mean for you? And there's a saying. There was somebody who volunteered to do a project, and he was the only one who volunteered, and he was chosen because he said, "I want you because you're willing to make mistakes."
Wow. Of course.
And if you think about it, so many of the great inventions in our world came from someone making a mistake
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
learning from it and saying,
Hmm.
"Oh,
Oh.
now I understand how this works," and something else comes out of it. So being so afraid to make a mistake actually hinders your progress. That's how I work with individuals on the same PAR approach. How do you prepare for your
Wow.
presentation? How do you prepare your team
Mm. Mm.
to be able to handle all the things that they might encounter on the way? while
Mhm.
keeping their eyes on the prize.
Eyes on the
Always a
prize.
positive intention with
Mhm.
awareness of what's around you and what
Wow.
where you're going and what might get in the way, so that you
Wow.
can start to feel like everything is workable,
Beautiful.
everything you can handle whatever comes across to you.
I
So
love it. I love
that's
it.
basically how I work with it.
I love how your principles always work in different areas, regardless of where you apply it. And you've created, you communicate in such a cohesive way, regardless of what field and what discipline that you're talking about, especially now in business. And it really gets me going. And it gets my mind thinking, because now I'm thinking in the same principles, in the same language, in the same uh, communication that you share with us today. How do you apply now pausing? Like when you go into your shot, pausing, like thinking about what you're going to do. People get overwhelmed easily. Right? Today we are overstimulated, or today we get overwhelmed easily because of everything that's happening. Where does your teachings or your principles come into when you talk about stopping, pausing, taking a breath? How would you advise entrepreneurs, or just life in general, on how you could pause and take a break?
I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to talk about mindfulness and awareness.
Hmm. Please.
Mindfulness is two things. It's a
Hmm.
practice, it's also a
Hmm.
state of being. The state of being mindful means you're fully present to what you're experiencing and what's coming in from others, moment to moment to moment. That's
Wow.
being in the present and
Hmm.
being mindful of everything you're experiencing.
Okay.
Awareness is a more comprehensive overall sense of, am I present,
Am
or
I
has
present?
my mind gone someplace else? So the
Wow.
practice is, no one can stay in the present every moment for their whole lives.
Of course.
What happens is our minds do take us away for a moment, for different periods of time. A long
Hmm.
period of time is a daydream,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
recognizing our awareness is, oh, I'm I was drifting off, now I'm back.
Right.
Time to return to what I was doing.
Wow.
So the key here is knowing what gets you spinning out of control.
Right.
And that can be too many things coming at you at once. And
Right.
that's when you take a time out. So I often coach my my business students,
Hmm.
they're not really students, my clients, the executives,
Hmm.
and say, look, the phone rings, don't just knee jerk reaction. The
Right.
key here is the difference between responding and reacting. I want you to respond to what's
Wow.
coming across to you rather than react.
Right.
So that's
Exactly.
where the pause comes in. So what if, just what
Hmm.
if, everybody watching and listening out there, what
Hmm.
if before you pick up the phone, before you move, you hear the phone and you go, phone ringing,
Hmm.
take a breath. That's my signal to take a breath. And
Interesting.
then reach for the phone. If you can manage it, take two or even three. Say, now I'm going to pick it up.
Okay.
I had an executive who, his assistant came into the office and said, "We got to do this," and the executive said this, and the boss said this, and then he said, "Wait a minute, hang on a second, I need to breathe."
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And he stopped and started breathing, and after, by the third breath, his assistant was breathing along with him,
Mm.
and then he said, "Now what's our agenda?"
There you go.
And they went point by point by point, and instead of going all over the place, scattered, everything was in an ordered,
There you go.
even fashion. So
Yes.
people think, I don't have time to do this breathing stuff.
Yes.
You're wasting time by not doing it.
Actually, you are.
If you could stop and take 5 minutes before you go into a meeting, even
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and just sit there, gather your thoughts, Move your mind into your body so that you feel more
Yes.
present and centered and settled.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then take your notes, walk into the meeting, and you will be much more effective. You'll be
Right.
ready for whatever comes across to you, and you'll be much more effective in communicating what you want to get across to others.
Wow. Doc Joe, that's just, I love that. I cannot thank you enough for that. And you literally quite put it in simple terms. The thing about just reacting and responding is completely different. It's a distinction that's important. But more importantly now, because we're all scattered. Everyone is scattered. We're all just, completely struggling for that sense of peace and that sense of pause, and we've forgotten that skill. We've forgotten how to do that.
If you find yourself in a hurricane, get to the eye of the
Oh,
hurricane where it's still. Make yourself still, and everything goes around you, and
wow.
then you will be able to respond in an effective way rather than getting swept up by the energy.
Wow. Doc Joe, what a way to kind of put this all together. Doc, as much as I would love to pick everything apart, I would love to hear more about this
We'll
discipline,
do it
this.
again sometime. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. I'd love your
Okay.
insights a lot more. And then, our audience and listeners, I'm sure, have enjoyed the same insights. Doc Show, I'd love to give you this opportunity. First of all, where can we find your new book? Where can we find your bestseller classic book? And where can we learn more about Doc Joe?
Everything's pretty simple. It's drjoeparent.com,
Mhm,
drjoeparent.com.
mhm,
And you
mhm.
can probably find me, just Google that, or search however you search for Dr. Joe Parent. And on my YouTube channel,
Right,
I have a lot of mindfulness training sessions,
right,
many,
right,
many mindfulness training sessions, and some audio recordings of excerpts from all of my books.
right.
And in
Okay.
fact, I, I had the privilege of writing a book for Disney with my
Oh, wow.
sister,
Hmm.
using Winnie the Pooh and his friends to teach mindfulness, awareness, confidence, and gratitude for families.
Oh, Doc
So
Joe, Doc
that's a
Joe.
favorite of mine. You'll find all my books on my website.
Fantastic. To all our audience and listeners out there, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, please check those out. It's very insightful, and I'm of course quite excited to, check them out myself. Doc Joe, one last bit of wisdom you could leave us behind, anything at all. Take us home.
Well, people think if only I did things better, I'd enjoy my life more. It's the other way around. If you'd enjoy your life more, you'd do things better.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Doc Joe. What a great way, what a insightful way to bring this to a close. Doc Joe, thank you so much for being on the show. I loved it. Let's do this another time. To all our audience and listeners out there, see you on the next one.
All right, so here's the thing, we try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.